Everybody knows that all the people don't have liberties, all the people don't have freedom, all the people don't have justice, and all the people don't have power, so that means none of us do.
Jello Biafra for the Independent Media Center and the camcorder Truth Jihad.
The only thing that's going to stop this is a militant demonstration against the city of San Francisco. Hey, hey!
The movement is intending to fill the streets and reclaim the streets and reclaim the spaces that have been absolutely hijacked.
I think there's a lot of people here for how freezing cold it is out here. I'm really excited. I did not think there was going to be this many people. I'm just totally pumped.
This raindrop turns to a puddle, turns to a lake, turns to a stream, turns to a waterfall, turns to a river, turns to an outlet, turns to an ocean, turns to a raindrop, turns to a puddle, turns to a lake, turns to a stream, turns to a waterfall, turns to a river, turns to an outlet, turns to an ocean.
Life on the range for Colorado's immigrant sheep herders can be described as difficult at best. They are the last true cowboys. But instead of a world of bucking broncos, tight pants, and silver belt buckles the size of dinner plates, these cowboys suffer the elements and perform back-breaking labor for little to no reward. 6 former herders won a 2008 case against the Vermilion Ranch Limited Partnership after suffering horrific and demeaning working conditions. They were brought to the U.S. from Chile in pursuit of the American dream, but what they found was a life of forced labor, visa fraud, and extortion, according to the lawsuit they settled. Dropped off in the middle of a barren landscape, workers are left to fend for themselves without toilets or showers for months at a time, and with no communication in case of an emergency.
¿Usted tiene teléfono celular?
No, no lo tenemos, no nos permite.
Ajá. ¿Con qué frecuencia está permitido hacer actividades sociales? Por ejemplo, visitar a un amigo, ir a la iglesia, ir a fiestas, ir al pueblo, etc. Ir a la tienda.
Ese sí no nos permite. No nos permite ese.
Entonces, ¿tuvo la oportunidad o la capacidad de leer el contrato de su visa?
Ya, no nos ha dado.
¿No?
Nunca, no nos ha presentado. Si no nos da un papel de contrato, ahí firmamos nada más. Sí, ahí vienen las leyes que nosotros debemos leerlo, pero no, el patrón ahí se queda.
The herders' rights had been violated so egregiously that their settlement agreement outlines exactly how the Vermilion Ranch must begin providing for its workers' basic human rights. They are now required to provide medical care when necessary, give the workers access to their own wages, provide showers and toilets, and allow opportunities for social interaction.
Generalmente, ¿qué pasa si un trabajador se enferma o se lastima? Se jodió.
Se jodió.
Ok, entonces nada.
Sí, nomás el patrón dice, estás un poco, puedes caerte el caballo, estás golpeado, y él dice, no es el corazón, usted trabaja, no pasa nada, no es el corazón.
¿Usted y alguien que usted conoce se ha quejado sobre las condiciones de trabajo?
Pienso que sí, los que se han ido.
Se han
¿Qué
quejado,
aconteció?
pero
¿Los corrieron o ellos abandonaron el trabajo?
Ha sido observado por el patrón, entonces aquí se...
Claro, se fueron, ellos un poquito que se han quejado.
Pero, a ver, explíqueme exactamente qué sucedió. ¿Ellos hablaron directamente con el patrón? ¿O cómo fue?
Creo que no. No hablaron, o sea, aprovecharon lo que tuvieron un accidente y salieron así.
Okay.
O por alguna riña, algo por ahí.
Pues un compañero se ha lastimado, o sea, el brazo. Entonces, ya siéntese.
Sí.
Y entonces aprovecharon para escaparse.
No, o sea, el patrón le llevó al rancho.
Ajá.
ahí lo estaba teniendo y...
O sea, no le daba un descanso.
Como ya estaba algo bueno en el brazo, quería que trabaje, ¿no?
O sea, el patrón no le da descanso, quiere que se trabaje seguido. Exacto.
Así igualito pasó también
con Pedro fue así.
America's last true cowboys are hidden away in the mountains and deserts of the West, stuffed into rickety tin shacks without heat, refrigeration, adequate food or facilities, or a line to the rest of the world. But there is hope for these men who fill a vital role in the U.S. agricultural industry. A very small minority of the ranchers employing H-2A visa herders willingly provide them with the basic necessities we've become accustomed to in the 21st century. They are proving that the oppression and exploitation of the Old West don't have to continue. For now, these rare humane employers are an example of what could be, but they must become the standard for what should be.
This raindrop turns to a puddle, turns to a lake, turns to a stream, turns to a waterfall, turns to a river, turns to an outlet, turns to an ocean, turns to a raindrop, turns to a puddle, turns to a lake, turns to a stream, turns to a waterfall, turns to a river, turns to an outlet, turns to an ocean, turns to a rain.
A negotiator, police who's not wearing the riot gear. He's wearing like a hat with a little badge on it, and then the rest are all riot gear.
We just undertook an action to picket and do some street theater demonstrations in front of New Alternatives Incorporated, a group home, a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit that fired our friend Adam for trying to organize against poor conditions and atmosphere of intimidation taken by his employers, which is definitely not conducive to a healthy work environment or any kind of environment that anyone would want to work in or be around. And we need to have worker solidarity and workers band together to improve these kinds of conditions and to secure a better life. Right to organize, and everyone has the means to do so. All people need is confidence and solidarity.
They're all riot gear, and the cops on the side don't have.
Hi.
Sorry about that. Let me get out you guys.
Oh, okay, cool. We're just. All right, we're just taking a ride down to the end of the park. Thanks.
On December 15th, 2008, at this park in El Paso, Texas, a military veteran and nature enthusiast became the first and so far the only person to commit civil disobedience in an attempt to stop construction of the border wall.
And the place I was standing was very close to here. I see that road, but it's hard to recognize it now, but it was...
We once had this dynamic living river that wound through the valley, meandered back and forth, and changed its course periodically, and flooded its banks seasonally. You had this wonderful mix of habitats.
Guess where the river channel is, and they got a couple of key people working here.
Wetlands, native cottonwood willow forests, mesquite bosques, wet meadows. That was a tremendous area for wildlife. It was probably the most valuable area in this region biologically. Here at Rio Bosque Wetlands Park, we're trying to bring back over time at least an approximation of the mix of native habitats that once was found in the valley.
This poor park seems to be disrespected. And when we realized, I think it was around August, when we saw the wall coming in from the New Mexico, coming in from the west, and saw the pictures of the wall going around Cristo Rey over by Anapra, and realized that it was going to come here and go right along the edge of the park.
even though the river is so changed from what it used to be, it nevertheless is a place where water concentrates, and in the desert that means life, and so you have a lot of wildlife concentrating in the Rio Grande. And up until now there's been movement of, you know, large mammals and lizards and turtles.
It's hard to tell with this wall in the way where the wetland cell is.
And different things coming from the river into Rio Bosque and back and forth, and now that's totally cut off.
What could we do? Certainly the city and the state and various mayors all along the Rio Grande have said they don't want the wall here. They've had lawsuits. In fact, they've gone to the Supreme Court from the county of El Paso and done all the legal things that you could possibly do to stop the insanity of this wall. And when you run out of options, then the next thing to do is civil disobedience. So a lot of people like the idea, but there aren't very many people that can actually risk arrest. Man, this just makes me so sick to see it like this. Oh, crap. Monday we had a meeting, and at that time the preparation for the wall was going on. The various parts and pieces and material was in place, but no construction had yet started. And so Wednesday morning at 6 o'clock we met at the visitor center. At that point there was about 7 or 8 of us, and walked out to the construction site and just at the edge of the park and realized, you know, hey, gotta do it. Now's gotta be the time to do it. So
Judy sat down in the path of the construction and refused to move.
7 hours. It took 7 hours for them to figure out whose jurisdiction it was and who was going to actually arrest me. The city cops came out, and the construction workers and the managers came out, and they all asked me to leave. The Texas Ranger was a guy that took the lead then, and he was just begging me to leave.
We were watching her from a distance, but it was definitely this image of one small but very strong person there kind of against the system. It was very dramatic.
Key supporters within the religious community, people within the immigration rights and human rights community, and a real broad section of people that came out. There's no way that I would have attempted any civil disobedience without the support of all these different groups.
And she always carried herself with dignity, and I think really tried to engage the workers and the different law enforcement people, tell them why she was doing it, why she was upset about the border wall affecting this park, and I think why she hoped to stop it. And I think she did a good job of communicating that message.
They didn't want to cause a scene. It really worked, and I'm so sorry that there wasn't a way to continue it. You know, keep coming day after day. Maybe we could have stopped it. But I wimped out. I didn't know what my legal status would be, having already been arrested and still in this limbo land. It's not yet resolved. So.
And it was something that, as far as I know, nobody had been brave enough to actually put themselves on the line.
You don't do civil disobedience without doing soul searching first, because although the legal system is a nice system, it doesn't always work, and there are people that could rough you up, you could get physically hurt, you could be in a very uncomfortable position for a very long time, so you want to be very sure about what you're doing. You know, civil disobedience has been done in many great instances before, you know, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, the women's rights to get the vote. You know, these people are inspirations throughout history that once you have exhausted the legal channels, then it's time for civil disobedience. For me, it was particularly easy to do because I'm an old white gringo. My military experience went in my favor because all the law enforcement people tended to have prior military experience, so they said, "We thank you for your service," as they handcuffed me. An old white lady doesn't get a lot of trouble. If it had been a young Hispanic guy standing out here, he might have got who knows what.
I don't know what the new administration is going to do. We'd really like them to come and tear it down. I don't know if they're willing to go that far.
Well, we hope they get a clue. My first letter to Obama was, stop this wall.
I think his intentions are good. The only thing that bothers me is that he has never talked about the immigration. So I want to know how he stands on that.
I'm not at all optimistic about it changing quickly because the construction's so far along here.
We have a lot of hope with the new administration, who seems to be for justice. We hope we can come across about how unjust this is.
In other places where construction hasn't taken place yet, like in a lot of areas in the lower Rio Grande Valley, there is real hope that things will be revisited and reevaluated. And certainly our hope is that someday people will figure out that this really is not necessary and will decide to remove it.
I have to have hope. You know, if you really look at what's going on here, the river is life. The river has always been life. From before humans were on this planet, this river, the Rio Grande, was a place where animals would come, the plant life would come. And as humans got here, humans come. People come to the river. It's a place of community. The river is life, but this wall is death. And so I can only hope that with the new administration, with a more open mind, we'll have a chance to take down this wall. We gotta have hope.
This is the main space of the building. I don't know if you can really see in here, but it's about 40 feet by 40 feet. Looks a lot better than it did probably last time you were around here. We pressure washed the walls and got the floors cleaned up. We're going to try to paint the walls in the next week or so. Trying to do a couple different things to the building before we start painting inside, or while we're waiting to paint. And this, I think, is the main space that we used as community center and a classroom. I'm a teacher, and so what I'm doing is homeschool here with 5 kids from, a couple of the kids are from the 9th Ward, from about a mile from here, whose family now live outside of the 9th Ward, and then I have 3 more students who live, I guess, in the 8th Ward, right next to the 9th Ward. And what I'd like to do is get up to about 15 kids, because I think that's about all I can handle, and do homeschool with them. You know, under the law, you have the right to, you know, public school or Catholic school or private school, independent school, or you can do homeschool if you want. You also have the right to hire a teacher to homeschool your kids. And so I'm providing my tutoring services for free. B&R Grocery, they called it Blair Grocery, or they call it George Grocery. I think George Blair was the father. The family built the store, I think, in the 1950s.
This was the only grocery store in the neighborhood?
Yeah, it was the only grocery store in the lower 9th, well, north of Claiborne in the lower 9th Ward that I know of. And I've been told that it's the first black-owned business in the lower 9th Ward. It's the least reconstructed area of the city. It seems to me like a fairly typical block down here in this neighborhood may have 1 to 2 houses that have been put back together and the families are living in them.
That's it?
Well, you can look on this block. There's nobody living on this block, period, on either side of the street. There's 2 families in that one duplex, and then I think there's 1 family living on the other side of that block. There's nobody living on this block. There's 1 house on the block that this building is on that has somebody living in it, and with me, that's 2. The lower 9th Ward historically was I think it was like 90-something% homeowners, and 90-something% of those people were black. There was, you know, I don't know, more than 50% of the people lived in poverty, but it didn't have such an enormous impact on people's lives on an everyday basis because everybody had family and cousins and relatives who lived around them, and so, you know, you could get somebody to help babysit or watch your kids if you had to go do something, or if you needed, you know, probably a little bit of money to tide you over till payday or until your check comes, then you could get a little bit of money from somebody. You had multiple generations of families on the block. The Blair family was gracious enough to allow me to use this building for 2 years if I make renovations and improvements to the building. So, as you can see, we're in the process of renovating and improving the building. This is Thanksgiving break, and so I'm trying to get in windows, fix a couple holes in the roof, run electric, make sure we got at least one solid bathroom up and running and going by the time we get back from Thanksgiving break so that we can start having class in here. Oh yeah, and heat, because it does actually get cold in New Orleans if you've never been here. Then what we want to do is renovate the rest of the building. And we have some folks from the neighborhood who know how to do plumbing and electric. The parents' bedroom, there's 2 bedrooms over here, and you've got a kitchen over here. And so what I'd like to do is have the kids renovate the upstairs. Because one of the things, as you can see in the neighborhood, is that there's a lot of houses that need to be renovated.
Right.
At one level, there's immediate jobs if you know how to do electric and plumbing. We've got some folks who know how to do that, and they want to come in and show the kids how to do it. I think in terms of community service, one of the ongoing community projects that we could be doing is building housing right around us. And not to sell, but just to go in and help people with their houses. Some people have their materials, but they don't have any money for labor, or they've been subject to like a contractor fraud, where they gave them $4,000, which is half the money or whatever, and then the contractor just walked off with the $4,000. There are probably thousands of cases of that in New Orleans. It might even be tens of thousands, I don't know, but it's really, really bad. And so there's some people who have all their stuff, and they just don't have they don't have the money for labor. And so I think the kids could do it as a job if they want. I think they could do it just for the community. It's going to take a lot of things to address education issues in Louisiana. Louisiana has some of the worst education in the country. It's like 49 out of 50 on everything, or 50 out of 50, or 45 out of 50, on everything. Charter schools will work for some kids. Arts schools will work for some kids. Job Corps will work for some kids. Just straight up GED programs will work for some kids. I think a small alternative school that does stuff like I'm thinking about for them could be great. Some ideas for the curriculum are, I know we're already doing public debate and doing debate out in the community and working with the school uptown to figure out how to do relevant debate. So the one that we're working on right now is, what's the question? Oh, are immigrants stealing our jobs? That was one of the questions that the kids generated. And so what we're doing is looking at all the kind of different aspects and parts of how we could go about answering that question and arriving at an answer. And that was their question. And I think it's a good framing of the question. For teaching, it's a great framing of the question. And so we're looking at that. I want to do a virtual history museum online of the lower 9th Ward that I think my first group of 5 students could do some basic work on. And then as the school grows and evolves, the virtual museum will grow and evolve as well. And as and they could say, well, when new kids come in and say, well, here, go look at this thing we did online. Now you add your part that you want to add, or add something else, another part of the story that needs to be told. And they could go back to look at Betsy or 1927 Great Mississippi River Flood, or they could, there's a lot of things they could do. There's some arts curriculum that I'm putting together with Xavier University and Colton, which is Colton School. Well, now it's called Colton, but it was a school, and now it's turned into half artist space and half school. And so we're developing some curriculum with them. We've had some people come out and look at it who know a little bit about urban farming, and they think that we could definitely grow food on here. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is waiting for a soil test to come back. The front third of it's really, really bad. It looks like a garbage dump. The middle third's actually pretty good, and it's pretty clean, pretty litter-free. The back, we were talking to Macon Fry, the garden guy, about that, and he said that was probably a garden because the soil's so good back there. It's a little packed down because nobody's done anything with it in 3 years, but he said the soil quality back there is really, really good, and he said he'd probably just go ahead and plant in it. he said don't eat it until you get the soil test back, but he said you could probably go ahead and plant back there. It's really good quality. We got our compost bin set up, and got some railroad ties to put some flower beds in the front over here. How great would it be if we could do enough farming out here that we could actually turn this back into a store and a co-op for the neighborhood you know, with seafood and meat and, you know, lots of good organic vegetables. Maybe people from the neighborhood would bring their stuff here. At least we could maybe even run a farmer's market on Saturday morning out here so people could stop by. And then eventually turn it back into a store. If we could do something like that down here, then we could afford to have a store, and we could, and the people, and you know, the kids in the neighborhood could learn how to run a store and do like business management stuff or whatever, co-op style, and you know, and then we could support the school, and then the kids would be able to eat, you know, fresh, somewhat decent food, and then we could be building houses in the neighborhood, and literally just kind of put the whole thing, or at least play a part in putting the whole thing back together. So there'll be a lot of other players and people involved, you know, like you all who are watching this. We need your help, because right now it's all volunteer. You know, or my effort's all volunteer. I really don't have any money to pay people, and so it'd be nice if we had 2 more teachers eventually. Right now, I could really use a hot water heater. That would be great. Any basic electrical wiring would be great. Any basic plumbing materials would be great. You know, PEX, 200 amp interior panel boxes. I could really use computers. Would be amazing. Computers would be the best. Like, I've got 5 kids and I'd like to be up to 10 by Christmas. I got more kids than I know what to do with, but I can't really take them until you know, I've got the building up and stuff. But we could definitely take like 10 computers would be great. I kept feeling like the educational needs of the kids down here weren't really being met, and particularly the kids who are, you know, people would consider at-risk kids. You know, the number of kids who are being suspended, expelled, kids in the judiciary system who are still teenagers and are still in the school system. It's ridiculous, and nobody's, you know, it just doesn't seem like anybody. Well, it doesn't seem like it would hurt if I tried to put in my 2 cents to help deal with it. How about that? And so that's where it started from. And so what's that thing? Like, if not now, when? If not me, who? Well, I asked myself that question and I figured out the answer. So here I am.
Mobile broadcast news.
It's okay to kill in the name of democracy. And dictators are swill if they like the smell of American money. If someone get me sick, I want a part of it. Stop waving that flag. All you idiots buy right into it. Who's off top in the bag? Surprise!